So we've talked about the shotting patterns and the type of float you're using, but what sort of line and hook sizes are you using on here? Because you've got such a mixture of fish, I suppose you have to have a bit of room for error.
You know, I use a fine diameter line, a Preston Power line in a 514.
Yeah.
It might sound heavy, but if you hook carp in shallow water, they're gonna surge off out into open water, and you know, lighter line is just you're just gonna be smashed up, which isn't. And that's the great thing about, you know, using a running line. You can let them go.
Yeah.
I've got a hook link down to a 264, which is Grand Match. Again, always use a slightly less
Lighter,
hook link. So if something is going to go, that's going to go. Yeah. And hook, I've just got a size 18 on. I might sometimes, depending on the pellet again, you can quickly take that off and use a 16 and 18.
Yeah.
I'm only using a 4mm pellet here, so an 18 is perfect.
Yeah, it's about right. I mean, I like to always try and use a very similar size hook to the pellet, you know, really match them up, and the smallest I possibly can, really, because a lot of that hook is quite visible, isn't it, when you pellet fishing?
In a pellet, yeah, you push the hook in, the point in, and twist it, and the pellet's sitting off the curve.
Yeah.
So, but what you're trying to do is get fish competitively feeding down there, so they lose their kind of like guard and just mop up. So, yeah, it's just matching the size of the pellet to the hook, really.
Yeah. So for this sort of close range fishing, I suppose you can get away with pretty much any float rod that you own already, but really you want something that's fairly forgiving, don't you?
You want a nice throw action, I would say, and something that again is a nice light rod. So if a rod's a little bit too heavy, it will impair the strike and the time and how quick you are. So,
I mean, you're using the 3G medium float, whereas I think, again, because you don't know what the next bite's going to bring, it allows you to fish a little bit finer, doesn't it, and take your time with a fish and have an extra margin for error. If you were just fishing a lake where it's just carp or just bigger tench, you'd want, you know, a power float or a big fish float, something like that, where you can get them under control a bit quicker. But here you're fishing fairly light gear, and you know, you really want to enjoy every fish, don't you?
Yeah, I think the fight is half the fun of catching a fish. There's no need to rush. It's just enjoy it, and this rod's just perfect as an all-round. You know, if we've got roach in the swim, it's got a nice action that we're not going to pull the hooks.
And 13 foot, I think, is probably about the right sort of length. And I mean, there's been a bit of a move towards shorter rods, which definitely have their place, but it's just convenient. It gets you out over the marginal shelf.
Yeah. Again, it all depends where you want to fish along the margins. You know, an 11 foot's going to come into its own if you want to fish further down.
Yeah.
A longer rod will come into its own if you want to fish further out. So, but a 13-foot rod is just a good all-round length, and it's versatile. You can fish a pole float, you can fish a waggler with it. Yeah. It's you can trot a river with it. You can, and it's not, again, a longer rod's going to get heavier during the day, so you're limited to how long you're going to be able to hold that. And again, if you start putting the rod down, you're going to become lazy. Yeah. So you're going to miss bites. So. You just want a rod that you can hold all day, that's going to stop a carp, but at the same time, on the smaller fish, enjoy the fight and hopefully not have too many hook pulls. Yeah,
and you're sort of sitting almost a metre away from the edge of the platform as well, sitting back quite a bit. I guess that's just because you're fishing in so close, it just keeps the shadow off the water.
Yeah, it's very, very shallow where I'm fishing. It's only about 2.5 foot down here, so I don't really want to be sat right on top of the fish, so sit back, don't, you know. Sometimes it feels more comfortable being right out and close to the water, but at the same time, I've got fish coming from the reeds either side of me, so I'm sitting well back and just being a bit inconspicuous.
Yeah, just keeping out off the skyline, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many stories that go around nowadays that fish, you know, can hear you talking, and nowadays, no, it's not. Fish can't hear you talking. You know, the quieter and the stiller you are, the more you're going to blend in, and they're not going to know you're here. Yeah. So
it can't do any harm, can it? At the end of the day.
Nice.
Hello then. We got here another tench.
Another tench. That can show you how delicate a pole float can't be. Sometimes a slight little lift wasn't there just before that,
a couple of little lifts, wasn't there? There was fish around it.
It was just a matter of sometimes moving your float can sometimes just
induce a little bite, can't it?
Once you get a few tench going, they normally sit there for a little while and.
They do tend to be shoal fish on these commercials, don't they? Nice one, well done, mate. Is that about the stamp of tench you've been having today, Dan?
No, this is the biggest I've had today, but by no far as big as they go in here today. Earlier I was catching quite a few that were just nettable.
Yeah.
So it was
half pound of that kind of size.
Yeah, which is rare to see small tench like that. So it's nice to see there's a good head of smaller ones in there. So
yeah, that's a nice mouthfish, isn't it?
A mouthfish by the bumps on the fins there, you can tell. So
that's it.
another one caught on the pellet.
Yep.